Throughout the years, my Trident has always been my main workhorse machine. Unfortunately for me, it's broken. Today, we're going to fix it and even install a couple of upgrades along the way. Let's get started. So what exactly is broken here? It might not be obvious on first glance, but I could definitely hear that something was wrong. One of my belts had mysteriously become very loose compared to the other. Take a listen. Of course, on a Core XY, we're relying on the belts to be equally tensioned to make sure that the gantry stays square. Instead though, the top is significantly looser. It didn't take too long to figure out what the issue was. One of my belts here has definitely seen better days. It's really just hanging on by a thread at this point. Now, it took me a second, but I did figure out exactly what caused this. See if you can spot it. No? How about a closer look? Yeah, so every time this thing homes, the ducts are pushing on the belt. It seems that, eventually, after about 8 months or so, this has become too much for the belt to handle. Fixing this shouldn't be too bad, we just need to replace the belts. While we're at it, I'm also going to be re-lubricating all of the rails on the gantry, since these ones feel bone dry. Let's make our lives a little easier and take off the panels. And of course, the tool head as well. I was pleased to see that Bonantis has held up very, very well. For those who might not be aware, Bonantis is Jakub's mod of the original Mantis toolhead, and mine uses SLM printed parts to maximize rigidity and achieve a better center of mass. I did notice that the ducts were looking pretty melty, which was something I figured would happen when I first installed them.
I'm quite worried that those are going to melt because they do get really close to the nozzle.
I'll add those to my list of parts to reprint once we get everything working. I took off the X-axis and also both of the Y rails to re-grease them. Unlike last time where I used some high temp grease, the only thing I have around here is regular old Mobilux EP2. Not ideal, but it'll get the job done. I do really wish I had a syringe though, as doing this with your fingers is not exactly a fun time. Still, it needs to be done one way or another. After thoroughly washing my hands, I took the opportunity to clean the XY joints. There was a little bit of belt dust there, but nothing to be concerned about. I installed the rails back on the printer using the Voron rail alignment tools whenever I could. Now we can finally replace those belts. On my Voron, I'm using some modded tensioners that let me run double shear on the motors with the double T gantry. When I first made these parts back in October, I mentioned just how much of a pain it was to install the belts, and this time was going to be no different. After suffering for a solid 45 minutes, not getting the belts through the motor mount even once, I decided enough was enough and came up with a new plan. Well, plan is giving myself too much credit. I got fed up and decided to cut out the double shear entirely. No more double shear, obviously, but at least I could get the machine back together. These look downright atrocious, but they should function at least until I have a chance to print some replacement parts. Thankfully, my butchered tensioners made installing the belts a whole lot easier. Now we can put the tool head back on and get everything printing again. In case anybody was thinking about trying Bonantis, here is a quick tutorial on how to assemble it. We'll start with the carriage. I modded mine to use the standard Zoll carriage. The only difference is that my parts are of course metal. Once the carriage is on, we can attach the main body, which holds the hot end. And then we can place the Sherpa Mini and the rear brace on top of that. The front brace is sandwiched between the main body and the ducts. We can do the left side, then install the hot end fan, and finally do the right side. Lastly, we just need to install the 5015s and we're done. If you want to try SLM printed parts on your own printer, then you can get them from the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. I, of course, got my Bonantis parts from them, and I've actually used PCBWay's services again for an upcoming video on a very special toolhead. In addition to SLM, they also offer CNC machining, laser cutting, and of course, PCBs as well. Basically, if you've got an idea, PCBWay can help you turn it into something real. Check out the link below and see what you can make with PCBWay. And as always, thanks to them for supporting the channel. Alright, let's get these panels back on and see if everything is fixed. This is our first home since the rebuild. It looks like sensorless was fine on X. I'm a little worried about Y. That seems fine. The reason I say that is because I broke one of the end stop wires when I was working on stuff. Just working on the one motor mount, because the motor wires and the end stop wires are in the same loom, and I kind of dropped the motor and I ripped the solder joint apart there. But it looks like I repaired it just fine. Picked up the probe, that all seems to be going well. Nice that I don't have to adjust anything, and then here we go. All right, so the next order of business is obviously, actually... Okay, maybe the clicky dock isn't quite aligned properly. It's good to see that everything is mostly good. In order to prevent the ducts from hitting the belts when I home the printer, I decided to just home X in the opposite direction. I made a couple of changes to the location of the clicky dock and got everything working reliably there as well. All that's left to do is start a print. So what exactly did I print? Well, these are for the upgrades that we're going to install next. We have 2 beacon modules for the Zoll carriage, some spacers for my Z motors, and also a couple of replacement parts for the toolhead. Let's start with all the toolhead stuff. I decided to try out beacon, mostly because I was curious. I know dozens of people with beacons and have literally never heard a bad thing about it. Beacon has a whole lot of advantages over clicky as well. We can scan the bed much faster, use beacon contact to automatically set our Z offset, and even use the onboard accelerometer for motor syncing, which is going to be super important for all-wheel drive later. One thing I'm a little nervous about is my metal tool head interfering with beacon's keep out zone, which is an area around the coil where you can't put any metal objects. I think we'll be safe, but I'm going to keep the wires for clicky here just in case it doesn't work out. Actual assembly is dead easy. We attach the probe module to the tool head and attach beacon. That's it. We need to run the USB cable back to the Raspberry Pi, and I'm just going to be zip tying it alongside the rest of my wiring. Everything else we need to do in the firmware. Okay, that's so cool. That's sick. Watching that is never going to get old. Before we install the motor mounts, I'm going to do a quick test print to make sure that everything is working. I also replaced those melty ducts and also the arm of the Sherpa Mini. The Sherpa was working fine, but that arm looked to be creeping quite a bit, so better safe than sorry. Now it's finally time to replace my old motor mounts with these shiny new aluminum ones that I machined in the last video. I'm going to be using some printed spacers to keep the motors at exactly the same height as they are now. Does doing this defeat the point of having metal motor mounts? Probably yeah. Replacing the motor mounts isn't so much difficult as it is just tedious. I have all of the Cable Raceways VHB taped to my bottom panel, so I can't actually remove it. I should be able to just pull the motors out at an angle though. After a quick trip to wash my hands, we can finally swap to the metal motor mount. As long as I use these 4mm spacers, I can reuse all of the old hardware. I added a cutout in the spacers so that I can remove them later without needing to fully remove the Z motors. They can just slide out. Reattach the skirts and the foot, and that's one motor mount done. Let's do the rest. Removing the rear motor mount was actually the easiest, as I didn't have to deal with any of the feet. These motor mounts look absolutely fantastic, and they should last basically forever. I did notice that my deck panel was a little bit warped when trying to install it. I'm going to add some insulation to the deck panel to hopefully seal the electronics a little bit better. Shout out to my sister for helping me with this. She cut the insulation while I installed the rest of the panels. And there you have it, folks. Finally, my workhorse machine is back in action. It should serve me well until I inevitably tear it apart again for even more upgrades. Such is the life of a Voron. Since you made it to the very end of the video, here's a sneak peek of what I have to come. Let's just say this is going to be an awesome machine when it's done. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.